and particularly working this theme of religious wisdom and political skills. These two areas, the religious wisdom, and David's been talking about the interfaith work, but bringing together and distilling and coming together as religious bodies. That has a very powerful effect, but then to combine that in decision-making process with the political skills. Sometimes political skills are very self-serving, but in its best form, it should be politicians serving their electorate, and at the same time leading them. Sometimes the electorate needs a figure that guides them to do things which are better maybe than their collective wisdom. So, bringing together those political skills, the alliance building, this form, and merging it with religious wisdom is a very important thing. And I wanted to go on here. These two subgroups then we've inaugurated over recent years, and this year we'll, on the national level, we'll inaugurate the International Association, the Interreligious Association for Peace and Development in the UK, which we really like everyone's support and guidance and advice and help. But these two bodies then are very important on an international level as well, to create forums by which we can have these two wisdoms, these two skills come together. So religion, having this value of altruism, love, compassion, mercy, benevolence, this capacity also of personal transformation and change. And the political power, often based on reason, often religiously skeptical, but combining kind of self-interest with political skills to lead effectively. So these two, throughout history, have often clashed. Politicians had the brute force, they had the political power. But often they didn't feel the necessity to go to religious leaders to ask for guidance or to consult them. Religious leaders, on the other hand, they had a very different set of skills. Religious leaders, based on this desire for compassion, to guide their membership, to grow in this benevolence and love and mercy, then had something that could guide politicians in the conduct of a nation. Not just for the short term, but actually for the long term. Sustainable peace. That sustainable peace comes with a different set of skills than the average politician. Some politicians are very good, they've got a strong faith. They're equipped with an insight as well, which is wonderful. But throughout history there have been many struggles. This is one, maybe today I'm not going to go into the details of it, but there have been many struggles between political force and power, and skills, and religious insight and love and faith. If we look at a couple of traditions, there are many more, but you could see a strong religious force growing, being seen as a threat and stamped down. And when political force tries to stamp down on religion, much blessing comes to that religion. It's like a counterproductive effort.
Yeah.
If you're a political leader, you're trying to stop a religion, just don't persecute it, because it works in the opposite way. So whenever there's persecution, this tremendous blessing comes. We experience it in a small way, but in the past, it's the brutal things that Romans did to Christians brought tremendous blessing. And this periodic brutality from the Roman Empire saw the steady growth of Christianity throughout the Roman Empire until there were several million followers within the empire around the Mediterranean by the 3rd century. And then there was a famous, maybe like a tipping point, but Emperor Constantine, who got this revelation, he was also a political leader. He also knew that there was a strong base of support for Christianity all around the Roman Empire. It wasn't just, there was this small persecuted group that he had to support. He already knew that they had a strong power and a lot of following. So what he was doing was, it was like pushing on an open door. And then within the 70, 80 years later, it became the established religion of the Roman Empire. So in this way, a religious body had one acceptance and then came to have a strong influence on political power. Another example, particularly the Mongolian Empire, and the slaughter of particularly Muslim countries, as it spread towards the West, was gruesome and terrible. And particularly one was the siege of Baghdad. Just tremendous suffering and atrocities. And there are many stories from this time, but there's a time maybe when the Baghdad rulers had also become quite corrupt. They lost this, religious sense from the Islamic tradition. But what's interesting is, within 70 years, the 3 of the khanates of the resulting Mongol Empire had become Islamic. And Mongols also, they were brutal invaders and occupiers, but when it came to ruling, they were quite liberal. So it's very interesting, even the son of the Mongol general became converted to Islam, and also Genghis Khan's grandson. So it was quite a change. So Father Moon never wanted our movement at this time to go through that kind of suffering. So he always said that the way to win this kind of victory was particularly through sincerity, through having sincere faith, being sincere in our dealings with people, practicing true love, living for the sake of others, reaching for a headwind thought. Headwind thought is this balance between left and right. It's not left wing, it's not right wing, but it's pulling in elements from both. And placing God at the center. God has to be at the center, but it's not a God that's owned by a particular religion. It's a God that can embrace and can be inclusively celebrated. And leading with a parental heart, the closest to its original love that God wanted to give us. So many times when there was some significant activity, Father Moon always emphasizes we need to make devotional offerings. There had to be a strong sense of internal faith in order to face political power and make progress. And also forgiveness, where there could be change. Don't criticize, but bring people into harmony, into oneness, even when they've done wrong. Another thing that Father Moon also said is to be appealing to political power, you have to have something which is useful for them. You need to, in a sense, show yourself to be of use so that there is an appeal, there is an interest, there's a desire to work together, there's a reason to work together. So through newspapers, through culture, through scholars, through other heads of state, many things were brought together. For example, for the first meeting, major meeting and reconciliation with the communist ruler, Mikhail Gorbachev, who was the leader of the Soviet Union, which at the time was struggling. And he was looking for a way. And in fact, he was wondering which way to go forwards after the collapse of the Berlin Wall, etc. So Father Moon since brought many of the foundations to Moscow in order to appeal, to create a meeting and then to share many ideas with Gorbachev in a way that Gorbachev could accept it. And Gorbachev did many things actually based on this. One, he made a declaration of the freedom of religion within the Soviet Union and then Russia. And he also allowed us to teach teachers with the book that David was mentioning earlier, this My World and I. And it pointed out particularly the good points about each religion. Particularly when communism had collapsed, there was a moral void.
It was My Journey in Life.
My Journey in Life.
Yes.
So there was a great void when communism collapsed. Communism had also supplied certain standards by which to live. So in this moral vacuum, then this was a way to help teachers to educate children of new standards, new values to live for the future. So there are many things that came from this meeting. So religious leaders then, they have to create a foundation by which they can influence our political leaders and be taken seriously. And North Korea, similarly, North Korea had been the place that had imprisoned Father Moon and had separated Father and Mother Moon's family from themselves when they were evacuated as refugees to the south. They'd seen countless people killed or cut off in this hermit kingdom in the north. So Father Moon had a lot to do in order to be invited to North Korea, but eventually through the same kind of building and foundations, he was able to go with an entourage, with Mother Moon. And rather than just go there and be very quiet, and Father Moon, he went and spoke very strongly about the wrongness of the ideology of North Korea, which was usually a very dangerous thing to do. North Korea is not known to be very compassionate. So, interestingly, based on this, Kim Il-sung wanted to meet. They met, and actually they found they spoke Korean with the same accent. They spoke about blood being thicker than water. In other words, the blood of the same people is more close. There's always more close-knit than foreigners who come from overseas. So meeting together like this then had a strong link which was made and forged from this meeting. It should have never happened, an arch anti-communist meeting a leading proponent of communism. But through that meeting, they made such a close bond that there has been a dynastic connection between the Moon family and the Kim family, which has been used a number of times as a backdoor channel of communication when crises have developed. And again, Father Moon went with a number of ideas. One was to establish a peace center in Pyongyang. Another one was to help North Korea to develop by establishing a car factory. This was more like an assembly factory, but it was the only cars that were being built in North Korea.
That's right.
For many years. Thank you very much. So, when political people and religious people meet, and particularly Father Moon's advice was make a sincere devotional offering. Have strong unity amongst the people coming, the followers and the supporters. And build a base of influence that is a way of serving those political leaders that is useful for them. And show that by working together, then there can be long-lasting benefit for their country. In a sense, this is how Father Moon looks at solving this age-old problem of violence. The violence that's first started with Cain and Abel. That there needed to be some way to resolve this. So who can untie this ancient knot of Cain and Abel? It's been entangled for thousands of years and grows ever tighter. Do you think the United Nations can do it? Can the United Nations end violence? Even though it has the quote to end, its purpose is to end the scourge of war. But it hasn't been successful. So it's devoted itself for 60 years to this task. If world peace remains far distant. Peace among nations can never come when those entrusted with the task have not resolved the Cain and Abel relationship between their own minds and bodies. So personal standards and personal faith has to precede this public accomplishment. So if we take a comprehensive view of history, we can see that the brazen which led to the Roman papacy has failed. Humanism that led to democracy has failed. And Hellenism that led to communism failed as well in the building of this world of peace. So I consider if there was an international worldwide ideal based on a view that integrated these Hebraism, humanism, and Hellenism, where is that view? The age that we are entering requires a philosophy that can integrate these ideas, at the same time lead to the merging of all religions. We need such a philosophy, but it should be based on a religious perspective. It's because we need something that goes beyond ourselves. A human viewpoint alone is not enough. Historical, political trends of the world are going in this direction, and the Unification Church is striving to integrate them. That's what I'm introducing is Hedwig thought. So, with this I'm going to conclude that one of our major goals is to bring religious people and politicians together in harmony, and particularly in a harmonious form of decision making, so we can combine these two skills to bring blessing on those countries and blessing on the world. And the greatest blessing of all is to build peace. Thank you very much.